Well, after what felt like the longest offseason that I can remember in quite some time, we were about to see the Seahawks play a real football game Sunday at Lumen Field, 1:05 Pacific time against the San Francisco 49ers. No soft landing, not like the Cardinals get. We just are just going to hit the ground running right from the beginning. The Seahawks with their rebuilt offense against the 49ers rebuilt defense. What's going to give? A team that feels and looks a lot more like it's in the vision of what Mike McDonald wanted when he took this job originally. Can't wait to see that get going. Today on the show, we have some important injury updates. We'll get into all of that on both sides of the aisle. And then I'll give you my weekly 5 players to watch. This is going to be a weekly segment. Now, it's week 1. I could have chose 22 players to watch, but we're going to narrow it down to 5. I have some specific reasons for that. That's coming up next. This is Seahawks Forever. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Look, I got the green screen back finally, and everything is just about set up the way I want it. Still using the backup computer, but if I hadn't told you that, you wouldn't know. Welcome. It is the first Blue Friday of the regular season. I know some people celebrate Blue Friday in the off season. I choose not to. Let's be honest. It's Blue Friday just about every day. If you could see my closet, you would know. Before we get into all that, first of all, I would like to welcome Fast Fashion Brewing as a sponsor to the program. Randy and Matt Storm, father-son duo over there. They are on First Avenue South in Soto, right next door to Hooverville, right across the street from Showbox Soto. You know what that means? They are in tremendous proximity to Lumen Field. It's supposed to be a nice day on Sunday, 70 overcast. That sounds like football to me. Drop in there. Tell them you know me. Tell them you watch the show and try their beers. It's a really cool spot, too. They have some really, I'll leave it up to your imagination, but some really neat little sitting spots in their tasting room. Fabulous lineup of beers. My favorite right now is called the Rain Man. You guessed it. You know why. It's not just named after Sean Kemp. He actually collaborated on the beer. It's a hazy pale, and it is delicious. Give it a try. I also like to thank Sleeper for being a sponsor of this program as well. They have a great deal for you. We're going to get into that just a little bit later. Let's talk about the injuries, first of all, because we had some surprises yesterday. One from the 49ers and one from the Seahawks in particular. Players that up until yesterday were not listed on any injury report, were not known to be struggling with any kind of malady, if you will. The biggest one on the 49ers side, Christian McCaffrey, who some people have taken to call Christian McCaff injury. Remember last year he had to go to Germany and get the stem cell treatment. He had the Achilles tendonitis in both legs. Last year was able to come back and play well. No sign of that this preseason. There were fans who would watch practice video and imply that they thought maybe he didn't look as explosive, but no reports of anything holding him back or having to be held out of practice, not even to the level that the Seahawks managed Kenneth Walker's workload this training camp. And then yesterday, news breaks that he had to leave practice, limited participation because of a calf injury. Here, let's do this. Let's give it one of these. We didn't get any additional information on it yesterday. He was supposed to talk to the media yesterday. Of course, he did not after that happened. Saw a post from an orthopedic surgeon this morning who was talking about the specific spot on the calf that he's been dealing with and how particularly difficult that little spot on the calf is to heal. That really the only way you can heal it is to shut it down and just rest and let it heal on its own. And so we were all kind of waiting with bated breath for any updates today on what we might be able to possibly see. We got this video courtesy of David Lombardi. He's out there just going through warm-ups, right? Doing his high knees, running a little bit, stretching. This got mixed reaction from the fans. Some thought, oh, he's not going full speed. Well, this is warm-ups, right? And then we get the injury news after practice that he did not practice today. And so if you watched my Twitter feed at Seahawks Forever, initially when I saw this video, I posted it and said, oh, he playing. And then about a half an hour later when the news came out that he did not participate in practice, I said, oh, maybe he's not playing. But then we got this. CMC spoke to the media today, and this is what he said. Quote, "Nothing serious, I'll tell you that. Like I said, I feel great about where I'm at. Unfortunately, when you have the injury history that I have, sometimes when you don't practice, things get blown out of proportion. But like I said, I feel great." Are we buying that? Like, is that just CMC coping? Is it subterfuge? Is it, Kyle Shanahan going, "Hey, get up there and tell him you feel good"? We'll find out on Sunday. Will he be active? Will he play? And if he does, how close to the Christian McCaffrey that we have watched and I know I have admired from afar, even, playing for a rival? He's just a spectacular player. I would submit that if he's ready to go on Sunday in some capacity, that even 70 to 80% of what CMC can give you is still a pretty damn good player and will help that offense be what Kyle Shanahan wants it to be. And so we'll wait and see how that goes on Sunday. From the Seahawks side of things, they had some things they were dealing with yesterday. Jake Bobo in the concussion protocol. Some of the wide receivers banged up a little bit. Torrey Horton dealing with a knee still just a little bit, although we saw him practicing on Wednesday. Derek Young with a knee. We had Reek Woolen with an illness yesterday. And then news that Anthony Bradford was dealing with a back injury and did not practice at all yesterday. After a really healthy offseason and preseason that saw him take that right guard spot. Even though, Christian Haynes had a little bit of an injury, I don't think anyone would question that Bradford earned that right guard spot, especially after that performance against Kansas City, which you saw Bryce Coots and I break down on the Hawks Film Lab. And speaking of Bryce Coots, big shout out to Bryce. Thanks for the big donation. I really appreciate that. The super thanks. Bryce, by the way, if you haven't caught up with him yet, not doing the Hawks Own Rundown anymore, branched out on his own, started his own podcast. It's called The Hawks Eye. Off to a great start there. Closing in on 1,000 subs. Get over there and support him and get him to that number. That is a really, really important number. But we showed you all 18 reps at that interior line group played against Kansas City Chiefs, and just an absolutely dominating performance from Anthony Bradford, the best football we've seen him play. And then all of a sudden he can't practice yesterday because of a back. Well, that's a little worrisome, right? Well, here's the official injury report as it came out. Bradford, good to go. Full participation in practice. He will play and start on Sunday. We're going to get that unit of 5 that we've been so excited to see with Jalen Sundell at center and Bradford at right guard. And then, of course, Gray Zabel at left guard, Charles Cross at left tackle, and the newly signed and extended Abe Lucas at right tackle. We talked about that last night. 3 players will not play on Sunday. Bobo, just not quite ready yet. Taking it easy with him. But the loss of Bobo mitigated by the news that both Cody White and Torrey Horton good to go for Sunday. And then Derek Young not good to go, dealing with that knee injury. That kind of cropped up late. Not really sure what's going on there with that. Really unfortunate, as he had such a good training camp that he made this roster in his 4th year. And then Uchenna Nwosu not going to go on Sunday. Look, there's been a lot of people that have already come out and said, like, here we go again, just not the same. Fool me once, right? I think they're just being careful with Uchenna. You've heard from Mike McDonald just how hard he's worked to get back from this thing, that they actually had to dial him back at times, how hungry he is to get back out there. And I think they just want to make sure that when he's back, he is back and he's ready to go. I think in a similar fashion to how they handled Abe Lucas's situation, that they maybe waited a little longer than they needed to, just to give a little cushion and be sure. And I think if you're concerned about Nwosu and the long-term prognosis, or at least long-term as it relates to 2025, being able to play this year, the fact that they didn't aggressively go out and get another veteran, the fact that they weren't in on Zadarius Smith, who signed today with the Philadelphia Eagles, who just must have a 70-man roster. I'm not really sure how they can keep signing players. That they haven't been more aggressive in pursuing Jadeveon Clowney, at least not yet. Maybe we'll find out next week. I think they have a fairly high confidence level that when he comes back, he's going to be good to go. But the good news there and the big news of the day is that Anthony Bradford's going to be good to go. We're going to see that new and hopefully improved offensive line together for the first time. Before we get into my 5 players to watch, if you would please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up. Really helps push this video out to more people. And if you want to be notified of any time I post new material on YouTube, hit that bell button. All the other content that I produce, be it on Substack or Patreon, those links are all listed down below. The Substack's still free, and I might even extend it beyond week 2 of the regular season. We'll see how that goes. And I will ask you this, you guys, had the 5 days off as I was driving across country, still playing a little bit of catch up. YouTube is the foundation, so got to make sure that this is all set. I will get everything caught up on Patreon and start writing again on Substack and crank that up as we go. All right. So as I said at the intro, trying to pick just 5 players week 1 is kind of tough, especially with so many new players. Some players we haven't seen on the field yet because of the preseason, players in new positions, players in a new scheme. I could have easily made this at least 10. But this will be a weekly segment that I'll do before each game, 5 players to watch. And they'll just be for reasons that intrigue me enough to highlight them over some of the other potential candidates. And let's start here because it's the most obvious one. And I promise you, I will not make him one of my 5 to watch every single week. But it's the quarterback. It's Sam Darnold, right? It's because we've seen him throw 4 passes. And while he completed all 4 of those passes, we need to see him run the full offense with the full offense and with all of his weapons and with Cooper Kupp and with Kenneth Walker. And in this Clint Kubiak scheme, unleashed with the full playbook. It's something that, this is what I'll say. What I want to see from Sam on Sunday, first and foremost, is him operating the offense the way it's intended to be operated, which means spread the ball around, get the ball out quick. And I got to see that progression throughout training camp, being able to attend just about every workout until camp broke. You remember back to the beginning of OTAs when he was practicing for the first time, and what did we hear those first couple of practices? Holding the ball a little bit too long, threw some picks, struggling a little bit against that Seahawks defense that brought all their starters back from a year ago, 9 players over 300 snaps, 15 players that started games. It's something that I saw progress as training camp moved forward. That internal clock of his sped up every day, got quicker and quicker and quicker, getting the ball out quick, spreading around to all his weapons, going through his full progression of reads, and if it wasn't there, taking off and running. And I want to see some of that too. I want to see Clint Kubiak has made it clear. Mike McDonald has made it clear. John Schneider made it clear. One of the reasons we turned to Sam as the guy to bring in when Geno Smith didn't want to be part of the program anymore was because of his mobility. There's rollouts built into this offense, but also his ability and his willingness to take off and run and use his legs. It was something that I never saw as much as I wanted to from Geno Smith. He was an underrated runner. We've seen it. The winning touchdown against the Niners, big run against them again last year. It's something that we never got as much as I hoped we should and thought we should have, especially given all the issues they had with protection last year with that Scott Huff, Ryan Grubb offense. So I want to see that. And then I want to see if he operates the offense efficiently enough, spreading it around. Like, I didn't take any Seahawks in any of my main fantasy leagues this year because I just think they're all going to eat, to the point that I've made the case that JSN could have a better year this year. And a year from now, we'll be talking about it. He'll be on those lists of like the best young receivers in football. He'll get more respect. And yet he may not catch 100 balls again. Right? But if he runs it the way it's supposed to be run, and they run it and run the football effectively, it's going to open things up for explosives too. And I want to see if he can get to that against the 49ers. Explosive plays have dictated and decided so many of these matchups over the last several years. And the reason the 49ers have come out on top more than the Seahawks in that series over the last several years is because of explosive plays on their part. Let's see if we can even the playing field a little bit, get to some of those by operating that offense appropriately running the football and the quick passing game. Speaking of the passing game, running the football, the offensive line. Charles Cross, we haven't seen him in this offense, right? He hurt that finger early in camp. We didn't see him in any of the preseason games. They decided to get the surgery. Looks like it was the right decision. He was even able to come back earlier than expected and practice to some extent week 2 of the preseason, although they held him out of all full contact stuff. He's ready to go. And so we saw how good that offensive line worked in this new scheme and with those new bodies against the Raiders and the Chiefs. And we saw it with Josh Jones playing left tackle, and it looked really good. So kudos to Jones, but let's see if Cross ready to make that next step, right? It's a pivotal year for him. A year from now, 8-9 months from now, he's going to be in a position to get paid as he'll be entering then into the 5th year of his contract. Remember last year in training camp when Albert Breer did his tour of camps around the league, and he said Cross looked so good he thought he might have All-Pro in his future. He's yet to make a Pro Bowl yet. Now, because of that, that's a good thing for the Seahawks because it meant that 5th-year option, $17.5 million next year. That's a great number. That's why you're not going to see him extended now. You know, he said that there have been no talks up until this point, and that was about a week and a half ago, so it could have changed since then, certainly. But, you know, John Schneider's been adamant that from ownership, this goes all the way back to Paul Allen. You know, we don't extend guys 2 years before the end of their deal. Cam Chancellor tried to challenge that, lost, had to give in. So I don't expect to see it with Cross. But he can make himself some money this year, for sure. The system's going to help him. The scheme's going to help him. If the offensive line improves as a whole, it's going to make Charles Cross look better. 12 personnel, 13 personnel, all the help that Clint Kubiak gives his tackles with tight ends, with motion, multiple looks. This is a very important year for Charles Cross, and I'm excited to see how he looks in this thing. Ken Walker. Speaking of guys that we haven't seen yet, right? And we felt the frustration in camp, certainly among fans, when they heard, oh, he's got a foot thing. And then even when the foot injury presumably felt better, they were still managing his workload, to borrow a phrase from the NBA. There were a couple of sort of ominous moments in training camp. Mike McDonald sort of showing his frustration when he would talk about Ken and the plan they had for him. Felt like in one particular post-practice press conference that he seemed a little annoyed having to answer questions about Ken Walker over and over again. Didn't often practice back-to-back days. There was the interview with Clint Kubiak on local radio where he was asked about the most important qualities he sees in running backs, and he said intelligence and availability. And then he talked about Zach Charbonnet and didn't mention Ken Walker. But I will say this, every time I saw him on the practice field in training camp, he was the best player on the field. Dynamic, explosive, all those questions, including ones that I had about, you know, is he broken? Are his instincts dulled by the issues with the offensive line the last couple of years to where he can't just run to daylight, that maybe he's not as good of a fit for this wide zone scheme as Zach Charbonnet? Didn't look like that in the practices I saw, including the fully padded contact ones. I think he's ready to go. And I've said it in the past that he can have a Jahmyr Gibbs type impact on this offense, even if that running back situation is more of a timeshare than some people seem to think. Timeshare works pretty well in Detroit. David Montgomery gets his touchdowns, gets to eat, gets the short yardage stuff, and is really good at doing that. And Jahmyr Gibbs still stacked up a ton of touches last year, a ton of yards, a ton of impact plays. I could see a similar situation to that. Can't wait to see Ken Walker. And I think he's kind of, if the theme of this episode was who's the biggest wild card Sunday, it'd be Walker. Because what are the 49ers expecting? I mean, if they're smart, they'll be expecting the very best of him and then adjust accordingly on Sunday. But they haven't seen him in this scheme. He could get a Alvin Kamara type role on Sunday. You know, Kubiak obviously being in New Orleans last year, having experience with Kamara. He could get 15 carries and 8 catches and 180 total yards and a touchdown or two. And Charbonnet could still get his 10 carries. I mean, that's how much they're going to focus on this running game, right? But I just think Ken Walker is primed for a big week. And then we'll see where it goes from there, right? I'm going to get to some of your comments in just a bit. I've got 2 more of my 5 to watch, but I got a message for you from the folks at Sleeper. I'm going to have to do it as a screen share because I couldn't upload it directly. So I'm going to watch it along with you. Here you go, guys.
Welcome Sleeper as a sponsor of the program. If you've never tried their app, I encourage you to check it out. I got a chance last year to use it for the first time. My first time playing best ball fantasy football, thanks to the guys over at the 12 Talk podcast. It is currently the #1 fastest growing sports app out there, and it does so much more than just fantasy football. You get live stats, real-time updates and visualization on all stats, the news feed, lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams, and real-time chat. You get to share the experience with other fans from around the NFL. I thought I'd show you one thing that it does. I made my picks for the week. Now, I didn't get a chance to pick last night's game. I would have gone with the Eagles, but because I didn't pick the game in time, they gave me a loss. That's why you see the 0-1 record up top, and I want to go through these real quick for you before I tell you about the great deal they have in store for you. I've got the Chiefs over the Chargers. I think we're going to finally see Andy Reid kind of fix that Chiefs offense. Hollywood Brown fully healthy there for the first time. I think they're going to come out on top of that one, even though I like Jim Harbaugh year 2 for the Chargers. I know the Falcons beat the Bucs twice last year. Revenge in this one. The Buccaneers are going to take care of business week 1. Pretty easy one. The next pick there, I think that Bengals offense too much to overcome with that Cleveland Browns roster that has so many questions. This was a tough one. Miami at Indianapolis. I do think Mike McDaniel might be the first coach on the hot seat if he gets off to a poor start. It's not going to go great. It's going to start off 0-1. I like the Colts in that one. And Jacksonville, the Liam Cohen effect. I expect him to get a better version out of Trevor Lawrence. I've never really been that high on, but I like what Liam Cohen did with Baker Mayfield down there in Tampa Bay. The Patriots are super young. I love their draft class. Almost all those guys are starting for them. That's a tough road trip for the Raiders and Pete Carroll's debut. I got the Patriots in that one. This one was kind of easy. I got the Cardinals at New Orleans. Spencer Rattler named the starting quarterback there. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be just good enough. And that Pittsburgh Steelers defense is going to carry the day. The switching quarterbacks there. The Steelers are going to win at the Jets. Washington Commanders is going to take care of business at home against Russell Wilson and the New York Giants. Denver Broncos, year 2 of Bo Nix. They're going to beat the Tennessee Titans in Cam Ward's NFL debut. The Seahawks, I like them over the 49ers. We're talking about that. No more to be said about that one. The Rams against Houston, that Texans offensive line. Just take a look at who's starting there. Rookie at left tackle, Laken Tomlinson at left guard. I don't know what they were thinking this offseason in the way they went about rebuilding that offensive line. They're not going to be able to keep up with that young Rams defensive front. I like the Green Bay Packers over the Detroit Lions. I'm going to need to see the Lions before I believe in them with all the coaching changes that they had there. And then we've got the Buffalo Bills in a game that they've been thinking about all offseason, taking on the Ravens at home. They're going to win that one. And then I like in Ben Johnson's debut as a head coach, the Bears beating J.J. McCarthy in his NFL debut. Be sure to use promo code FOREVER and you'll get a 100% match on your first $100 deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Thanks very much, you guys. Really appreciate that. James, thanks for the super chat as well. You too are the man. All right, let's get back to my 5 to watch, and then we'll get to your comments, questions, and takes, see how you're feeling on this first Blue Friday of the NFL season. Byron Murphy's my next one. And y'all know what I'm going to say next, right? How much nose tackle is he going to have to play on Sunday? We heard him say all offseason how much he was looking forward to playing more 3 technique and that the staff had told him that's what he was going to do. We saw the team bring back Jonathan Hankins shortly after the draft to man that early down run stuffing nose tackle role. And then Hankins did something to his back. We haven't seen him yet. He's still on the PUP list. Don't know. We don't even have a timeline for how or if he'll ever get back. This might be a guy, 32, 33 years old. He might be staring retirement in the face if he can't get right soon. I will say this. There has been a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of consternation among the fan base, and rightly so, about the lack of a true nose tackle on this roster. And I'm right there with you. I Really hoped that they would have come out of the draft with a guy that looked like that. Really excited for what Riley Mills is going to be able to be when he's healthy, but he's not a nose tackle, right? And it was a really good defensive tackle draft too. They could have grabbed one of those guys. They didn't. And I think a couple things played into that. Giving up a draft pick to move up and get Nick Emenwari, who they had a first-round grade on. That was important enough to them. And then taking a quarterback at 91. That's that range where I think they could have got one of those guys that we would have been excited about. But I will say this, and I think this was the plan all along. They knew they could get Brandon Peely and Quentin Bohanna to the practice squad. Both those guys had outstanding camps and preseasons. They are part of the plan. One of those guys, if not both, will be elevated to the active roster on Sunday and play a big role in that game. Where this stands moving forward, who knows? I know there's been a lot of speculation, and Corbin Smith's been talking about this for a couple of months now, the potential of maybe reaching out and engaging with the Dallas Cowboys about Mazi Smith, the former first-round draft pick from Michigan, who has been a disappointment through his first 2 years in the league. He was a healthy scratch last night, did not play for the Cowboys, despite the fact that run defense is a concern there, and was last year as well. Maybe he's a guy you can get at a discount at this point. He does have that history with Mike McDonald. We shall see. But I think I feel good that one of those guys is going to come up on Sunday and be able to contribute. I think it'll be Bohanna, especially the way they were using him in training camp and throughout the offseason. Not just playing him at nose tackle, but moving him around, playing some 5 technique and even some 3 technique, which is kind of interesting. So we'll see. Because I think, look, we all agree for Byron Murphy to unlock his ceiling, you got to get some of that pass rush out of him too. And if he's having to man that nose tackle spot too often, taking some of those double teams on, he can do it. He does it well. He's a little undersized for that. And it's not going to give us the best version of Byron Murphy that we want to see. Now, another guy that can move around, play different positions, and we want to see how he's utilized. Spoon, man. Spoon, man. Straight out of Soundgarden. We saw this in camp. Spoon and Reek on the outside, Emenwari as a big nickel slot defender, pseudo third weak side linebacker. How well he mans that role, and we saw some really good coverage stuff from him in his limited appearances in the preseason, will determine, I think, to some extent, how much Spoon plays on the outside. Now, he's never going to live out there full time. I wouldn't want him to. That's not really his strength. What makes him great is the disruption he can cause close to the line of scrimmage. Stopping the run, getting after the quarterback, covering tight ends, doing some of that stuff they're going to be tasking Emenwari with. Those two things go hand in hand a little bit. Because Josh Jobe is your third corner. We haven't seen him play a lot of slot. And so I think we're going to see Emenwari in the slot, Spoon on the outside. And then in certain situations, we'll see Jobe come in and play the outside. Spoon will move inside. But there's something else I want to see out of him this year too, and that's ball production. I've talked about it before. He has 1 career interception now entering year 3 for him. It was that pick 6 against the Giants, week 3 of his rookie year, right? The pass breakups are there. We see the physicality. The run stops are there. I think the ball production, it matters, and I want to see it. On Bryce's show last night in his rapid fire, or 2 nights ago, he asked me for a bold take, and I said Spoon gets 5 picks. Now I'll be happy with 3. Happier with 4. 5's a little crazy. Not a lot of guys, teams take such good care of the football now in the passing game in this league that picking it off is harder than ever. But they play a lot of young quarterbacks this year, right? AFC South, NFC South. And I think they're going to get some pressure. And Mike McDonald's going to unload the full playbook this year. Like he didn't get to do that last year. All those sim pressures, going to be throwing some curveballs out there. I think Spoon's going to be in position to make more plays on the ball and hopefully take the ball away as well. Those are my 5 guys. 5 guys. I'm starving. Now I want 5 guys burgers. Let's see what you got for me here. Let's get over here. Let's work backwards. Martin Lawrence says, not a huge K9 fan. It's not that I don't think he's talented. He's our best running back, but he struggles with injury so much we can't rely on him. That's fair. It's fair. And I think that, you think about where he sits in his career at the moment. And if he wants to get paid, he's going to have to be out there. Someone made the connection that after Kubiak said what he said on that radio interview about Charbonnet and then about availability, that suddenly after that, Walker, I think, practiced back-to-back for the first time. He knows it. He knows he's got to be on the field. He doesn't want to skip plays. Let's not get it twisted. He's the most talented running back on this roster by far. And when healthy, one of the most talented in the league. Let's see if he can convey that. John McGrath. Now we're just naming Soundgarden songs, all right? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And then, Carmen says, love Soundgarden, right? Rest in peace. Rest in peace. We got a game going on right now, right? Don't we? It's so, you guys being on the East Coast, man, I am going to hate life for the first few hours of the day on Sunday. The fact that I have to wait until 4 freaking o'clock to watch the Seahawks is, I'm not happy about that. I got a little taste of it when I was like 13, 14. I was in 7th grade. My dad actually took a job back here. He was working for Union Oil Company at the time, and took a job at their office in Schaumburg, Illinois, in the Chicago area. Actually drove through Schaumburg the other day. That was a weird full circle moment, even weirder in some respects than driving through Bismarck and revisiting the old TV station I used to be sports director at. I posted those pictures on Twitter. And my 2 memories of the 7 or 8 months, it didn't go well there. We moved right back to the Seattle area and Bellevue right after that. My 2 biggest memories there from being in the Chicago area were having to wait for freaking football, having to wait until 1 o'clock to see the first game. And then just snow. It was the biggest blizzard. It was the worst winter they ever had in their history. It was 100 inches of snow that winter. That was my only memory. I'm not going to like that at all. Martin says, the main worry I have with the Seahawks is special teams. Also think we might be short at defensive end. Still don't understand why we haven't addressed nose tackle. Well, we have. Again, they tried to address it with Hankins. They obviously didn't know he was hurt when they signed him or was going to get hurt. They like Bohanna and Peely. It's just, if you listen to McDonald and Schneider talk about roster management now, they talk about it being a 70-man roster and how those guys are viable parts, and you can protect them now. You can protect 4 players a week starting Tuesday so they can't be poached. You can elevate those guys. I think it's 2, right? You can elevate on game day and activate them. And they knew that that's such a limited, specialized role around the league. These teams that you look at that you think, I wish we had that guy. Well, I think most of the guys you're talking about aren't truly nose tackles. They're just really big defensive tackles, the elite defensive tackles in this league. But most of these guys get through waivers because it's not an every down role. And so they knew they had a really good chance to get Bohanna and Peely both back, and they were right. Those guys aren't going to be poached. They didn't get poached last year, right? And we'll see how the season goes. If Bohanna really plays well and a guy like Connor O'Toole isn't getting any snaps and they feel safe enough to move him to the practice squad, or injuries happen, one of those guys at some point will be elevated, because you're limited in how often you can. Is it 4 weeks in a row? You can't just do that all year. So at some point you have to put one of those guys on the 53, and they will do that. There also are opportunities that will come up throughout the season, as I touched on with potentially a guy like Mazzie Smith, maybe before the trade deadline. Defensive end is one. First of all, it's so hard to define now, right? I mean, we just call it edge, but it's different things for different teams. For us, it's outside linebacker, but also, quote, defensive end is also Leonard Williams and Mike Morris and Jared Ivey, right? And even Jaron Reed plays out there. So if you're talking about outside linebacker, Mafe, Hall, DeMarcus Lawrence. Don't forget about DeMarcus Lawrence. It was really hard to leave him out of my 5 to watch because he's another guy we didn't see in the preseason. But I'm telling you, from what I saw in practice, he's going to be a huge, huge factor on this team. And you might feel a little bit better about that defensive end or edge spot here in a couple of weeks. John, I'm glad you asked this question. This is one that, we've all kind of been tossing around for the last couple of months. And I think the answer is no matter what. I really do. K9 could go out and play 17 games and rush for 1,300 yards and catch 70 balls and score 10 touchdowns. And I don't think they bring him back because when you look at that James Cook contract, that's what we're talking about, right? And all the other guys you have to consider signing next year. You got to get Charles Cross done next year. You got to get probably Reek done next year. It's maybe Mafe has the type of year that changes their mind about him. At this point, I don't think they've approached Boye Mafe about an extension. That's just a gut feeling. I don't have any insight on that necessarily. But you have to, when you look at some of the other needs that they might have and some of those other young players up for extension, we know now for a fact, as Brady Henderson reported just the other day, that they're trying to get Kobe Bryant locked up and extended. And so far haven't been able to reach a deal. Sounds like Bryant might want to bank on himself a little bit and try to increase his value by putting another good year out there. It is a very unique situation. Now, if he has the kind of year I'm discussing, and it looks like it does in Detroit, those guys are both happy and they work well with each other. That I think it'll all come down to how much does Walker want to be here. If this is where he wants to be, we've seen it. Players that love this culture and want to be here are willing to take less than we thought they were worth based on the market. Ernest Jones and now Abe Lucas. And now with both those guys, there were some injury questions that may have kept their price down a little bit, but we've seen other guys with injury histories get massive contracts as well. So I just lean no, though. It just doesn't make a lot of sense when you consider that you have Zach Charbonnet locked and loaded and ready to go as a lead back type. We've seen how good George Halani looks like a starting back in this league. I think Arcadia Wright looked like a starting caliber running back with what we saw from him in camp. And if Damian Martinez can ever get back to the player that we saw in college, a violent runner, he could be in the mix as well. And maybe Kenny McIntosh even comes back off ACL and gets back to his old form. That kind of depth and that kind of cheap rookie level contract depth, if that's your running back room, it just allows you to do a lot of other things. And so I'm skeptical that K9 is going to be here beyond next year. TR Pierce, how many catches TDs for Oots? In the season or Sunday? I'll say this. I have no idea what he's going to do statistically, but I have been blown away by what a natural transition it's been for him to be a fullback. He looks the part, and he doesn't even look the part. He looks like a guy that could revolutionize the position. Look at the fullbacks we've seen. I guess Juszczyk doesn't really fit in this category. A lot of the fullbacks we see are like short, stocky, wide dudes, like running backs. Typically, most fullbacks are usually former running backs that weren't fast, quick twitch, explosive enough to stay at tailback. Maybe were too big, and they get converted to fullback. What they're doing with Oots seems to be more of the trend now, where you take tight ends because they're so prominent in the passing game and make them into fullbacks. But my goodness, what is he, 6'3", 274? And he just looks, he's a guy you want getting off the bus first. That old saying. But we've seen the blocking ability, and he's got the tight end background, and he makes that look pretty natural. We saw 2 plays in that Kansas City game. One of him destroying a dude on a run block and just carrying him 10 yards down the field. And then we saw the little motion reverse out into the flat 30-yard gain from Darnold. I think he might be my favorite pick out of that draft class. really, really impressed with what I've seen from him. Sean, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. John, I know we talked about this on Bryce's show, so we'll talk about it for this audience as well. Do you think there's any chance the Seahawks activate Chris Paul, is who he's talking about, out of Ole Miss, the rookie that they signed to the practice squad, to the 53 to prevent him from being poached by another team? John Schneider's so good at this stuff, and you can read the tea leaves, you can see the signs. He was drafted much later than most people expected him to be drafted. He wasn't retained by the Rams, even though he's a fifth-round pick, and they had needs at inside linebacker. He was beat out by Sean Dolak out of Buffalo, undrafted free agent. He made it through waivers so that the Seahawks could get him onto their practice squad. You start to look at the evidence, and it becomes pretty clear that, like, for whatever reason, enough teams in the league have misgivings about him, or just don't have the need, that they've passed on him time and time and time again. Now, for him to be worthy of a 53-man roster spot, he has to be better than Patrick O'Connell to get to leapfrog him from the practice squad. He has to be better than Chaz Surratt, and he has to be better than Drake Thomas. And I know a lot of fans don't think much of Drake Thomas. I'm telling you, he's a very good player. The coaches are extremely high on him. And if you release Drake Thomas tomorrow thinking you're going to get him through to the practice squad, dude is getting claimed, and he's going to play significant snaps for another team, I'm telling you. So he has a lot to accomplish and show them before he can even get to the roster. It's a shame that that we didn't get to see him in preseason, but that's just not how it worked out, right? But I'm super excited about it. It's like our 11-man draft class just became a 12-man draft class. And then you add the undrafted free agents, you add O'Toole, and you add Ivy, and you add Callerup. That's a 15-player draft class. You can make that argument, right? I'm excited about Paul. You do get, during the week, you get that protection after Tuesday. Maybe he's one of those guys they think highly enough of to make him one of the four. I apologize for this X-Wing. It's something about StreamYard that I often forget. So there's an echo cancellation feature that when I'm interviewing someone, I have to turn on. And I forget that when I bring in outside audio, I have to turn it on as well. The reason I leave it off for solo shows is so I can play music and it doesn't compress it. When you play music with the echo cancellation on, it sounds like you're playing an old reel-to-reel tape, an old cassette tape that's been eaten by the machine, and it just doesn't sound as good. So my apologies for that. In the future, what I intended with that integration was to just run it as a standalone that would pop up and take the full screen, and it would have been different in that case. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the understanding and the patience with the sponsors. We're in the regular season now, and this is how I make my living full time. So you're going to see some sponsorships. You're going to see some live ad reads. I'm wearing my jeans, my Doer jeans from last year, if you remember that campaign. I will do everything I can to try and make it as unobnoxious as possible. But at least with this one, it's a really cool app, and it's a really cool service that, how many of us play fantasy football and make picks and things like that? It's a lot of fun. I'm excited to have them on board, and I'm honored that they chose to sponsor the channel. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, see, I wish I'd seen. I didn't have the comments off in the bar, or I would have been able to fix that like that while it was playing. So my bad. Sorry for that. I'll probably get in a little bit of trouble for that, but lessons learned, right? Oh, that's right. Did you? Yeah. They're not paying me, so I don't want to get into it, but I'm in West Virginia right now where it's hot and humid. I was, spent a month at training camp. Like, the breathability thing is legit. I wear these things all the time. It's fantastic. Okay. Doer needs to come back and sponsor me again because I want more stuff. Yeah, John, I do think he'll be safe on the practice squad. I mean, you never, ever know. It's just, here, I'm going to make a note to myself because I've thought about this before and I really want to look this up. we know the numbers on cut down day. What is it? Less than it was 26 players got claimed this year. Like, it's a really, really low percentage. 26 players out of the 1,200 that are released. I'm going to look up, make a note to myself here. Let's see, of how many players typically during an NFL season do get poached off opposing practice squads. So I think that's a really cool subject matter for another day. Thanks for bringing that up. Let's see. Let's do this, guys, before we go. Give me predictions. Give me some quick predictions on the game. Give me some scores, and we'll write this down. We'll do this again tomorrow night, too. We're going to go live tomorrow night, I think, 5:30. And Bryce is going to be on, and we're just going to kind of open it up to more of this on the eve of the game and kind of take everyone's pulse about how they're feeling about the game. And so there we go. McGrath, 34-17. Robert Hale, 23-19. X, 28-17. Seahawks. All right, give me a couple more, and then we're going to wrap this up for the night. I'm already, my laptop's dying. I'll be back on my computer tomorrow. The new power cord comes, the one that I left in Seattle. All the shit that I have to bring and that I thought of, including some upgrades, and I forgot the cord that's about, 3 feet long for my my Mac Mini. Martin, 28-13. Schmeigel. That's a good one to end on. Schmeigel picking the Seahawks 28-0 over the 49ers. I do want to remind you of this if you haven't checked it out yet. We just launched a new show today that will live on this page. But it's sort of a spin-off, I guess, the NFC West mixtape with my co-host Rob Guerrera of the Gold Standard Network. If you don't like Rob because he's a 49er content creator, also know this, he's a diehard Mariners fan, so he and I have lived that painful life together. It's one of the things we've bonded over, and I really like our chemistry. So we're going to do that weekly. Check out the first episode if you want to go back and check that out, where we preview the 3 games involving NFC West foes this week. But it'll be a weekly program. Stay tuned to the Twitter feed at Seahawks Forever. So we'll dial it in on exactly which day. It's likely going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, and we're going to start doing those shows live. This one was recorded, but we will do those shows live so that we can hopefully at some point even attract some Rams and Cardinals fans in and get kind of a whole give and take as we look at what I think is going to be one of the most intriguing, certainly, and maybe the best division in football. And I was looking at this again today. It's a damn shame the Seahawks couldn't have figured out a way to get the win against the Raiders because, and I don't ever remember this happening, that would have meant that the entire NFC West tied in the preseason at 2-1. So too bad we couldn't quite finish off that Raiders game. All right, you guys. Thanks again to the folks at Fast Fashion Brewing. Stop by before the game. Enjoy a tasty beverage. Try that Rain Man Hazy Pale. And say hi to Matt Storm for me. Tell him Dan sent you and you listen to or watch Seahawks Forever. Also, thanks to the folks at Sleeper, and thank you to the Blue Wire Network for having me. Follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. All the other ways you can get my content or just support me as a full-time independent content creator listed and linked down below in the description. Also, check out that Sleeper deal. 100% match on your first $100 discount using the promo code FOREVER. Links down below. Terms and conditions apply. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow night. We'll do this one more time live, and then it's game time on Sunday. I'll be going live almost immediately after the game, depending on how the game goes. Sometimes I like to just listen to some, if not all, of Mike McDonald's post-game presser and get some of that feedback if there's some big burning questions after the game. Otherwise, if it's a blowout, man, we're going live immediately after the game. So let's hope we see you as soon as the whistle blows. Until then, I'm Dan. Forever and always go Hawks. Thank you so much for watching and engaging and supporting the program. We'll see you tomorrow, guys.